I don't care about Khamzat Chimaev and Kamaru Usman at all. It isn't a compelling matchup. The reason I'm bringing this up, guys, is because ESPN MMA, an Instagram page that works with the UFC, just posted Khamzat Chimaev and Kamaru Usman's tweets with emojis to symbolize that they just signed some sort of contract or that they're nearing a fight. And it looks like this might actually happen at 170 pounds. But the truth is, guys, this isn't compelling at all. Kamaru Usman's old as fuck, all right? And I will get this out of the way before I go on a rant. Yes, whatever gets Khamzat in the cage is better than nothing at all. If it is true that he is being ducked at 185 and he can't for the life of him get a fight booked, then I understand why he'd be willing to drop back down to 170. But the truth is, guys, this is only a matchup that would have been interesting in 2022 before Kamaru Usman got head kicked by Leon Edwards. And it would have at least been a little bit interesting if Usman had never just come off of a loss to Leon in a trilogy. Now he has 2 losses in a row. What do you mean? He's only got 2 losses. This guy was a champion just a year ago. It doesn't matter, bro. And this is why. Because he has taken irreversible damage in his last fight. Kamaru Usman has complained for his whole career about how his knees have been screwed, how his knees have been so in pain that he has to walk down the stairs backwards. He took about 60, 70 hard leg kicks and stomps to the knee in his last fight. Leon Edwards did more damage to the legs of Kamaru Usman in one fight in that trilogy than all of Usman's opponents have done combined in his entire career. And imagine what he's going to look like in his next outing. This is who Khamzat Chimaev's going to fight after all that talk about moving to 185? Fuck that. And if Khamzat Chimaev fights Kamaru and gets a win, people are going to be chirping about how Khamzat Chimaev has just beat a guy coming off of 2 losses, and before that beat a guy in Kevin Holland that has never been ranked in his entire life and, was booked to fight Nate Diaz, and that his only decent win is Gilbert Burns. And I get it. Kamaru Usman is a previous champion, and I'm not going to sit here and act like he's washed just because of the L's on paper. But the truth is, his legs were screwed going into the Leon trilogy, and they're way worse off now. Bro, you cannot convince me that this is going to be a tough matchup for Khamzat Chimaev. And what for? Like, for all of the past year, Khamzat's been talking about moving to 185, how he's going to fight Paulo Costa. And I understand that it's really hard to get a fight booked with Costa because he's just a ducking machine and he's a bitch to deal with in a business sense. But bro, we were ready for your 185 debut. What is going on? Now you're just deciding to drop down a division when, your last fight at 170, you couldn't make the weight. You missed by 8 pounds. This is insane. I was gearing up for this man to take out Israel Adesanya. That's why I'm kind of bummed out as well. Because if Khamzat Chimaev beat a guy like Paulo Costa, beat someone that was ranked at 185, he would have got a title shot. He would have fought the biggest champion in the UFC right now, or the most popular champion in the UFC right now, aside from John Jones, and he probably would have smoked him. And that is so much bigger than beating Leon Edwards. Don't get me wrong, the UK has a good, hype behind Leon, but he's only got 1 title defense under his belt. He's not that big of a star. He still has yet to fight Colby Covington. Maybe he'll blow his stardom up a little bit more after that. But Khamzat and Israel Adesanya are 2 polarizing figures in the MMA game. That is the path that I wanted to see. And if he does drop down to 170 pounds and he gets a win over Kamaru Usman and then fights Leon Edwards, maybe he can jump up to 185. But the thing is, bro, I feel like the sooner he does 185, the better, because Adesanya is 33. He's going to be 34 soon. And who knows? Maybe that's a fight that we'll never get. If I wanted to risk Khamzat Chimaev not getting a certain fight, I would rather it be against a guy at 170 pounds than against one of the biggest names in the UFC right now. As a Khamzat fan, and also as someone that's got tired of all the bullshit with Khamzat Chimaev and how the UFC is just not getting him in the cage, I was at least accepting that, okay, at least he's going to fight at 85 and be 1 fight away from fighting Izzy. And you guys know I'm not a big fan of Adesanya. I'd love to see him get absolutely ragdolled in the first round and choked out. And you may be in the comments right now saying, of course you didn't want to see this Usman fight because you wanted Izzy to get taken out. Yes, that's the truth. That is the truth. That's a big part of it. And you can't deny that that would have been a massive fight. Him versus Leon is big just because it's Khamzat Chimaev fighting for the belt. Khamzat Chimaev and Izzy is massive because they're both big stars, all right? And it's the hardest stylistic matchup of Adesanya's entire career. That is so much bigger. And maybe his weight cut will drain him and maybe he won't be as good. But at the end of the day, dude, I think he could be a 170-pound champion. But what the fuck? You're misleading us, man. You've been saying you're going to go to 185 for the past year. What is going on? And yes, I understand that a lot of people are probably turning him down. I guarantee you Paulo Costa is all talk. I mean, Costa ducked Whitaker. Costa's fought once a year for the past 5 years. The guy's not active. He doesn't take his career seriously anymore. Ever since he lost to Adesanya, he's just been a complete troll, and he's been all about getting as much money as possible and fighting as least as possible. And I really don't think that would have ever happened. And I made a whole video about it a few months ago on how, like, Khamzat's probably not even going to fight this year. Because if Paulo Costa is who he's banking on fighting, then good luck. Robert Whitaker said he was keen to take that fight, but as soon as the UFC offers you a layup in Dricus du Plessis, you're not going to want to turn around and fight Khamzat instead. And then there are other guys like Jared Cannonier, Marvin Vettori. Maybe they were offered a Khamzat Chimaev fight and they declined because they were more keen to fight each other. So I understand that people are ducking this guy. And if I'm Kamaru Usman, this is a shitty fight to take too. He's talked a lot about how he wants to leave on a win because he wants to prove a point to his daughter that you never give up, that you can bounce back after losses. And Usman's been a champ while his daughter was growing up, and he wants to give her a good life lesson and all that. But, like, bro, bad matchup for Usman, not compelling. He's an old man. You can't convince me that this is going to be that, competitive of a fight. And if you're going to sit here and tell me that, bro, Usman's not washed just because he got beat twice, look at the trajectory of his career. When you get KO'd that badly and then arguably 50-45'd in your next fight against the same guy who everyone was picking you to beat in that trilogy, it's not looking so hot. Usually from there on out, you go on a bit of a skid. I don't even think Kamaru Usman could beat a guy like Bilal Muhammad at this point, as crazy as that sounds. He's old. That's how it is. Can he still go out there and take out most people outside of the top 5? Without a doubt. Khamzat Chimaev is not that guy. He has a shitload of power in his hands. Kamaru Usman doesn't know what the fuck he's doing once he gets to the ground. He almost got choked out by Leon Edwards in their rematch. And I truly believe that if there's anyone strong enough to take Usman down with a good shot, it's Khamzat. And he could probably choke him out once he gets there. Kamaru Usman's a great wrestler. Sure, he has good takedown defense. But if he hits the mat with Khamzat and he's on the downside of Khamzat, if Khamzat's on top of him, he's probably going to get submitted. He's probably going to get choked out. And then it's Khamzat versus Leon for the belt. Don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of Leon Edwards. But, like, another reason I'm not really into this fight is because just mentally I had moved on from Khamzat being in talks at 170. I was ready for the 185-pound journey. And again, it's better than nothing at all. But, like, come on. You can't act like this is such a great fight. It's really not that interesting. It's a guy that's past his prime taking on Khamzat Chimaev when they should have fought when they were both in their prime. That's the truth. That is the bitter truth. So who do you guys have winning this matchup? I'm sure that 90% of you are going to say Khamzat Chimaev. And if you try to sit here and act like Kamaru's not washed up, then what do you have to say about getting kicked in his knees about 60, 70 times in his last fight? What's that going to do to him moving forward for a guy that was already walking down the stairs backwards because of how much pain he was in? It would have been more interesting for him to get a win over these bums at 185. Let's be honest, the 185-pound division's easy work for Khamzat Chimaev. The only tough matchup up there is probably Robert Whitaker. He would have ran through Adesanya. I would have loved to see that much more because I'm not a big fan of Izzy. I am a fan of Leon, but I'm, also a guy that probably wouldn't have a big favorite in that fight if Leon fought Khamzat. But the thing is, man, Leon and Khamzat Chimaev is a very similar stylistic matchup to Khamzat Chimaev and Israel Adesanya. Now, I understand that Leon Edwards is better on the ground than Adesanya. He is much more competent down there. He has a ability to submit guys. He has better overall grappling. That being said, because he is smaller than Adesanya, it's still slim pickings for Khamzat. Khamzat probably picks him up, tosses him on his head, and submits him too. That's the truth. And I think that, it would be the same outcome with Izzy. And it's just better if he does it to Izzy because it's a bigger fight. And the longer that is put off, the more time we have waiting for the Khamzat Chimaev versus Izzy fight, the less likely it is to happen. Because who knows, maybe Robert Whittaker goes out there and beats Adesanya in a trilogy, which is not the most likely outcome. I'd say that Whittaker's chances are like maybe 40% against Izzy. But what if he does go out there and beat Adesanya? Like, the UFC is going to give Izzy another rematch when he just got a rematch against Alex Pereira. I feel like they'd give Whittaker another matchup. And then Khamzat might go up to 185 and lose to a Robert Whittaker. So at the end of the day, that's the fight I wanted to see. I wanted to see Izzy and Khamzat. But it looks like we're going to see old man Kamaru Usman. It's not compelling. He just got his knees destroyed. And it's like, it's just frustrating, man. It just is. I've waited all this time for some 185-pound news. And I'm getting old hobblestone knees Kamaru instead. No thanks. No thank you. I'd rather see Kamaru Usman fight a guy like Bilal. That would be at least an interesting stylistic matchup. I get Bilal Muhammad earned his title shot, but even a Usman-Burns rematch would be interesting, you know? I just feel like as time has passed, the Usman-Khamzat fight has lost its luster. It would have been one of the biggest fights you could possibly make a year ago, but it's not that same fight anymore. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know a lot of you guys are going to disagree with me on this, but at the end of the day, this is just the worst overall matchup. At least Khamzat Chimaev and Paulo Costa is a test in a new weight division. How can he deal with the size? I think it'd be a pretty easy fight for him, but still, Usman is just an old man at this point, you know? And he is bouncing off of 2 losses that are going to affect him. The KO affected him mentally, and now the kicks to the knees in their trilogy is going to affect him physically. All right, so yeah, it is what it is, man. I guess we'll see Khamzat Chimaev fighting at 170, and maybe he'll miss weight, and we'll have this whole situation happen again, and we'll just run around in circles rather than actually making progress. I hope you guys enjoyed the video.